UNC and Miami. So North Carolina and Miami tee it up this week. So, Joe, here is another scenario. We just got done talking about Notre Dame and their loss to Louisville last week and how gut-wrenching that was. Nobody in the country, or maybe even this year, has a more gut-wrenching loss than Miami from last week, because we all know it by now. They try to run the ball. They should have taken a knee. They didn't. Haynes King goes down the field, scores, and Georgia Tech wins the game. Now that North Carolina and Miami are playing each other this week, everybody's like, oh, Miami sucks. They're not any good. North Carolina, Drake May, you got Tez Walker back. Well, I got some news for you, buddy. Miami defensively is really freaking good. They're really freaking good in that front seven. Joe, they're the number one team in the country in rush defense. They're number 13 in the country in rush offense. So what does that tell me? They are really physical on both lines of scrimmage. You know who isn't? North Carolina's offensive line is in for a rude awakening if they think that they're not in for an outright dogfight this weekend against Miami. Here's the issue, though. They have a potential number 2 overall pick in Drake May that they're facing on Saturday. But I do wonder if Miami's front seven can get to Drake May and rattle him a little bit, kind of like what South Carolina did in week 1, but teams are so much different than they are in week 1. But I don't think UNC has a prayer at running the football. The last 3 weeks, Hampton has been their leading rusher. 46 yards, 66 yards, and 78 yards. Now, the caveat to that is in 2 of those games, Drake May threw for over 400 yards, but when they're trying to put the game away against Syracuse a week ago, they couldn't run the football. Joe, their leading rusher had to get a 14-yard carry and then a 9-yard carry to get him to 78 yards with seconds ticking off the clock. Like, if they would have just kneeled the ball, so to speak, he would have been around 45, 50 rushing yards. It would have been 3 weeks in a row where you're under 70 yards rushing from your leading guy. I think people are sleeping on Miami. I know Van Dyke. I get it. He had a bad game last week. But, Joe, I got to lean the Hurricanes on this one, man. I think their defense is going to be a little too much.
Look, I think that what you've painted here, yes, the strengths for Miami, they're obvious. So you throw on the tape and their offensive line gets pushed as soon as the ball snapped. They are creating wide open rushing lanes that they're able to just plow through opposing defenses. Chaney and Parrish have been a really explosive running back duo. They're picking up huge chunks of yards, by the clip. They've got some talented receivers. And that defensive line, Leonard Taylor and company, I said this the last time, they are freaking dangerous. And they create so much penetration on a play-to-play basis. UNC has to be gap sound. They have to be assignment sound on their offensive line if they want to win this game. But I really do think, and I said this the last show, and I got killed for it when I said leading into the Miami Texas A&M game, that I criticized Tyler Van Dyke. And for a second, after he played really well against Texas A&M, I started to feel bad about saying that I jumped to a conclusion. I'm sticking by what I said. Tyler Van Dyke is a very, I'm going to be a little nicer here, a very average college quarterback that when the scheme is opened up and everything goes according to plan, the run game's working, he's got wide open receivers, he's going to play well. He's going to put up some nice stats. But what we saw against Georgia Tech is the really just horrible, bad version of Tyler Van Dyke. This is my new favorite thing to talk about with quarterbacks. He's got the Daniel Jones trait in him where he sits, the wheel starts spinning in his head. Nothing's really working. Nothing's really opening up. And you watch him deliver the ball late to covered guys. You watch him deliver the ball late to guys that were open to a defender that puts his arm up. I sent you a video of the all-22 angle of one of his interceptions. I don't know who the hell he thought he was going to throw it to. There were more defenders in the area than there were receivers, and it was blatantly picked off. I just think that for
Didn't
as
it look like the
balanced,
receiver ran the wrong route though? Because that's a timing route. He's looking off the safety and then throwing it. Not
it's
all
difficult to.
interceptions are made equally.
Okay, I understand that, but it's difficult for us to know if that was a incorrectly run route. So I'm going off of, and plus, there's other. I'm not giving him the benefit of the doubt because if you watch the whole game, he made a lot of similar mistakes. My point is here,
Fair.
North Carolina's defense has improved significantly since last year. They are a lot better, and their secondary isn't elite, but it's strong. I really think that secondary is in a position to where they don't need to be aggressive and send a ton of pressure, drop back, send a lot of throw out a bunch of disguise coverages, try to confuse him. If he turns the ball over a couple times, I would trust Drake May enough to take advantage of those with short fields to put points on the board. Not sitting here slamming Miami. I think Miami's good, but I think that the advantage here in the head-to-head quarterback battle is pretty significant.
Well, I would agree with you if the whole game was just played by the quarterbacks. Now, I will say that when you have evenly matched teams or somewhat evenly matched, I'm going quarterback. Who's the better quarterback? Who's the better head coach? I always do that. But this game's not evenly matched, in my opinion. I think Miami
I don't see why you see there's such a massive gap.
Because,
I don't think
Joe, where's the game?
It's close.
Answer this question. Where's the game won?
It's won in the trenches, yes.
Okay. And UNC ain't got nothing to stop them because let me tell you what's going to happen here. You ready? You better clip it. Miami's O-line is going to not look like what everybody else at UNC's played looks like. South Carolina is playing 3 freshmen, true freshmen, off the bus. And everybody's like, oh, they look so good. Well, no shit. They're playing 3 true freshmen on their offensive line. Syracuse, they can't even spell O-line. Okay?
All right, that's fair.
That O-line is going to get serious push against UNC. But here's the thing. And why I think Drake May could have issues. Miami's secondary is not putrid. They're not bad. Now, I would say
it's a good secondary. They've got a couple NFL guys in that secondary. I've talked
some NFL dudes
very highly of that group.
Drake May potentially might not have any form of a running game. Maybe none. Joe, they're playing bad teams. And I'm talking about really bad teams.
Yeah.
Syracuse, everybody's like, oh, they're undefeated. They're a good team. And they play Clemson and get their teeth kicked in. Well, then the next week, Clemson is in a dogfight with Wake Forest. A dogfight. They cannot run the football. And Drake May, I get the Syracuse 40-7, whatever. Minnesota, he had to throw for 414. Pitt, he had to throw for over 300. And Pitt gave them a game. And I promise you, they could not run the ball. And they were trying everything they could to get yards on the ground, and they couldn't. This is the best front seven that UNC has played. The best front seven. It's the best O-line that they've played. And if you cannot run the ball on putrid teams, App State, if you cannot run the ball effectively enough, I promise you, you're in for a rude awakening, bud. Now,
I don't. Okay, wait.
Okay.
The offensive line thing with talking about with Miami, I don't think that really works in this conversation because if we watch the Georgia Tech film and we watch what he did, he has all the time in the world. And they ran the ball really well. They ran the ball really freaking well.
That's my point.
Tyler Van Dyke blew multiple drives with silly interceptions. If you put him in a position, that's why I'm saying prioritize stopping the pass. Let them run the ball. Let them do their thing. Prioritize stopping the pass. He's going to make a mistake eventually. That's the type of a guy that he is. That was the mistake, and it's even more on film against Texas A&M. They went all out in stopping their rushing attack, and they did an effective job of it. I think that they didn't, what was it, like a ridiculously low number of rushing yards.
Miami only ran for 77 yards. Right.
And because they did that, their bad secondary, Texas A&M's bad secondary, had so many wide open holes. How many wide open receivers did Tyler Van Dyke throw to? It happened very often in that
made
game, and
some
that was
really big time clutch throws in that game.
He did, but he was in a rhythm and was confident because all of those things he was able to connect on a lot of wide open throws. My point is that game shows us that was the wrong approach. Let them run the ball and then hope that he eventually makes a mistake, which he will. It's what teams do with Daniel Jones. Teams do that all the time with Daniel Jones.
Who else had really bad games? Or I shouldn't say really bad games, but moderately bad games under Cristobal?
Who? Justin Herbert?
Herbert.
No. We're not. I'm not comparing.
No, there were multiple. What was Herbert's biggest flaw coming out? Just stay with me here.
His biggest flaw was it was a leadership character concern for
turnovers. Remember, they said that he fumbled the ball. They said he had small hands. He fumbled the ball too much, and that he turned the ball over too much. I think it's a Cristobal thing, personally, but that's just me. I get what you're saying. If UNC wins, it's because Van Dyke screwed the pooch. Okay, but as an overall team. Like, meaning everything around the quarterbacks, everything else, offensive line, receivers, defense, special teams, dudes, outright dudes. Miami is a better overall team than UNC is. What I am banking on here, okay, is that Tyler Van Dyke, although I agree with you, I'm going to say he's a little bit of more of an above average quarterback, okay, because look, I watched Coastal Carolina. Thank you for the money. But I watched Coastal Carolina and App State last night. And I'm going to just tell you something. North Carolina, you said this the other week. App State's not a good football team. They're not a good football team. Who did App State play this year?
Oh, you're implying that they played North Carolina? Yes, they played them close. They went to overtime.
Could not run the ball, and you got Coastal Carolina kicking their teeth in. Bro, they're kicking. And so my point is, you're saying let them run the ball. Joe, you ain't got to let them do nothing. They're going to take it from you. They're going to take it from look, Drake May's going to have to be Superman, buddy. He's going to have to make throws that you're like, all right.
Here's the wonderful thing. Here's the wonderful thing, though. He's capable of doing that. And he's done it before. He's taken over games. He's going to do it again.
He has. But now the McCollum kid, he's a really good receiver. He had, I think, like 135 yards against Syracuse and like 165 something against Minnesota. I don't like teams with that much talent that get embarrassed because, Joe, Miami's on the cutting board here. The hopes and dreams that they have are on the cutting board. And teams that usually are a dog in a corner, okay, having to come out swinging, I don't like it for UNC. And I don't think UNC's been tested like this. Okay.